while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire.
Hey guys and girls, welcome back to YYC Designz RC Creations. I am Twist, and y'all are looking at root beer. Now, a few things have happened, obviously, since last time y'all seen her. I've got a lot done with the cab. I've got the front fenders done, also the side engine mounts. Now, they are pretty well ready for primer. So I'm getting ready to do the hood here. The hood, there's not a lot to do to it. I do also have the front grill cowl. I can't put it on right now because of these clips holding the fenders on, but I still got some work to do with it, and I'm just deciding how to do it. It's kind of a flimsy piece, and I've got to add a section here to it to form in what would have been the rad support. So there's a little bit of work left to do with that yet. However, the cab and the box is also just about done. It's about 80% along. Now I have to apply a little bit of auto body putty to it just to get rid of some of the fine scratches. You can see them here. Now I can sand them out, but if I sand them out, then I'm taking it down too far. So it's easier to put the putty in along there and fix them that way, along the way, along same lines as I did here on the cab. Now you can see there's a little bit more work to do in the corners here where the putty cracked a bit at some of the joints. Right, that happens. You just add another little layer of putty and let it harden up again, and you just fill those tiny spots. Now the thing about this putty is that you can't fill too much at once. So you'll see in the Patreon videos coming up how to work with it and Bondo a lot better. Maddie's talking here about something, so you might hear her in the background talking. I don't know, something at the back door of the house here has got her rather interested, and I haven't figured out what it is. But usually she wants to chase a cat when she's talking like that, but there's no cats around. Anyhow, so I got to finish the box out yet. That doesn't take long. It's just a matter of putting the putty on, letting it set up, and then of course sanding it. So we're almost ready for primer. Now the one thing I have gone ahead and done, I haven't finished them off, is I have made the left and the right doors here for root beer. Okay, I've got to cut the windows out of both, obviously, and attach the hinges and the door handles to her, and then we can go to work on the interior. The interior won't take long though. So yeah, I went ahead and I've got the doors on her done now. So the doors I've just got to cut them out, and that sort of thing, like say put the hinges on, all of that I just finished telling y'all, and the doors will be ready to be hung, and then we can start going to work on getting the motor and the transfer case and the diffs and all that installed. I've got to get I haven't been able to afford to do it yet, but I'm working on getting a set of shorter shocks for it. Now my problem is, I'm going to undo some stuff here now. Now my problem is that when I originally designed this frame, I designed the shocks to go up inside like that. Yeah, you should be able to see down in there. What I'm going to do is just grab a little flashlight and see if I can give you some extra light. Now I designed them to come up like that, and that way give us a lot more, or give Rob a lot more choice in adjustment height. The problem is if you look at that, I think it's going to be really, really too close to that engine cowl to put shocks on. The bolts are going to be in there. They're going to be hard to access because the fenders, of course, are going to be permanent mount. So the problem lies, how now do you get to the shocks to change them out on the top? And you know, when I built it and I welded those bits on the frame, I really wasn't thinking about it. On the back, of course, I just have set my flashlight down here. Now, on the back, of course, I had designed it so that the shocks are underslung. Okay, so the truck would have rode a little bit tail high, which would have been okay because that's kind of how they rode anyway. They never really made a four-wheel drive version of the Diamond T240. It was only ever a two-wheel drive. Kind of messing with history a bit, I guess, but Rob wanted a crawler and he wanted the Diamond T, and I've always wanted to do one, and I thought they would have made such a beautiful four-wheel drive truck that Rob and I decided, hell, why not? Let's go ahead and build one and see what it would be like. Now, I haven't ground the frame yet to get it ready to go into primer. And the reason is because of mistakes like that. Now, this is the thing about scratch building, is you don't get it right the first time every time. You've got to work with things, and you've got to monkey around with it and figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. Now, that's all okay. Like I said, this is all part of the process of scratch building. There are no plans to follow. The plans are in my head, and I am just designing something that would be very, very cool. Maddie wanted to come up and say hey, so here's Miss Maddie. Camera, I can't get it back far enough because she wants to snuggle in, but there's Miss Maddie. There she is. She wants to join in here. So anyway, that's the deal with the scratch building, is, like I said, there are no plans, and you don't, okay, get down. You don't always hit it right off the bat. This is part of what has taken me so long on Root Beer, is trying to figure out just how to make all of these things work, yeah? And of course then I've got to fabricate the bits to make it work. So deal is, let me remove this fender and then y'all can see exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to have to take this mount and turn it into a mount a lot like the rear. So basically there'll just be four. Instead of coming up like this, this will get cut off and the shock mount will have to get underslung. But that also leaves more clearance up here for the motor and stuff. The fenders fit tighter so that when I tack them on, they're gonna fit really nice and proper the way they should, yeah? And everything's gonna come down into a nice cowl panel look. When I put the fender back in place for y'all, it fits on so, and that way I haven't buggered up my cowl panel, and all I've got to do is make a little piece to come in here with the door to make everything fit really nicely. That's easily done because I've got to make the little make a little vent window here, and I'll extend that cowl panel down. Easy done. So that's where I am on Root Beer. Now, before I forget to mention it too, the other thing I've also got done for Root Beer is I have got her links being made. If you look right down there underneath that can, those are a bunch of her links being made right there. So I've got to put some threads on the ends of some of them, but yeah, her links are well underway as well. So I've gotten quite a bit done for Root Beer, or as much as I could do without spending money that I don't have anyway. So yeah, things on Root Beer just cost me a lot more than I thought they were gonna, but that's okay. Rob's been really great. He hasn't pressured me about the truck, and I'll just save up some bucks here, and we'll get her done. And she's gonna be a really sweet ride. Anyway, Dodgezilla now. As you can see, same thing with the hood, the cab, and the fenders. I've got them ready to go into primer. I've got to make her doors yet. I've got to put a little bit of a body line across the top here in each of the fenders to match up with the original body. And Uncle Lee has decided that this is going to be a one-piece body. He wants to be able to hinge it at the back so that the whole thing just tips up, and he can access the chassis and all of that. And so that's going to be very cool. However, that adds a couple challenges in for me, in that I have to find a place and a way for him to be able to hide his battery and electronics. So that is where I've been kind of stumped until recently, and I've kind of come up with an idea for that. Now, the ESC and the receiver are pretty easy to hide. You can tuck them away anywhere, especially if you start putting floor pans in the cab. And that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to make a floor cab, or a floor pan for this cab that will fit, that Lee can bolt right onto the chassis with a couple of screws, and it's going to allow him to hold battery on one side, ESC and receiver and everything on the other side, allowing his transmission and his drive gear, whatever that may be that he decides, to run right down the center. And so that way his battery will be basically sit on here on one side, and his ESC and receiver can sit on the other side, and it should balance the body out fairly well. It keeps all his weight forward. Now, the same for Root Beer, actually, is her battery and her electronics are also going to be hidden in the cab, and the beauty is I can hide them underneath the seats and so on. Now Root Beer actually allows me a little less option, because her cab isn't quite as long because of the 240 style of the pickup. The Dodgezilla here, her cab is a lot bigger and allows a lot more room, both front to back, side to side, but also height. So you can stuff a lot, hide a lot more underneath the seat. Yeah, and when the dash and all that goes into this truck, we'll see how far Uncle Lee wants to go, whether he wants a full interior or whatnot, which I have always assumed he does, because Ugly Bubba is one where, I mean, that truck is so beautiful. Down at Tandem C Television, Frank and the rest of the guys in the shop have done such an amazing job down there. I mean, the fab shop, the body shop, all of them did such an amazing job. And, well, Frank, you know Frank, hey? Frank, I don't know if he does an amazing job or just some kind of a job, but at any rate, Tandem C Television did such an amazing and incredible job on the interior of Ugly Bubba, that I want to be able to perhaps not match it, but at least come up to the same standard with Dodgezilla here. So I kind of have always felt that Lee over at Bull Gear RC Videos, by the way, I will put links to both channels in the description, but I've always assumed Lee would want a full interior on this truck. So yeah, now the challenge with this truck is that I'm not building a chassis, so I kind of had to wonder how I was going to mount it. But what I'm going to do is, on the box here on the very bottom, I can actually hide my nasty rivets by putting in a nice mount here that Lee can move wherever he wants along here, but it'll hide the rivets to give him that pivot point on the chassis to be able to just swing the body completely up. Now the box is not in the finished stages like the cab and everything yet, so you know, forgive the messy look on it. It hasn't made it into my finishing shop yet, which is just me and here in the little shop. I haven't put it into I haven't put any Bondo on it and finished up some of the rough edges, as you can see. I also have to put the small rear fenders on it. They're kind of a challenge to make, mainly because they are so small and they're so tiny that it's kind of hard to work with pieces of metal that small and get them to do what I want them to do. The cab here turned out pretty good. It's got a few little rough edges yet that need to be fixed, and that's why I haven't started on the doors yet. And besides, on the cab, as you can see, there is this nice curve shape in the Dodge, and that goes into the doors and then follows along, and that's the line I have to put in the top of the fender here to come and run just under the hood, so that when these are together like that, there's actually a nice body line that goes in just below where the gap is, where the fender meets the hood. Yeah, so that is the challenge as well, is lining all of that up without anything being hinged or affixed to a chassis, because I have to make it so that it all bolts as one unit. Now that's kind of a unique challenge for me. Usually I'm bolting things to a chassis, and then I have a solid point of reference to work from. This point, the only solid piece of reference I have to work from actually is the box, because the box height will not change. It will sit up about here on the truck and have this rolled edge of the box runs just about parallel to that body line. So it's got to sit just about so. Okay, so when I bolt the cab and the box together to make the one-piece body, that is going to be my only reference point to come through all the way through the whole body without having a chassis deal. But next I want to start working on the doors and of course the cowl panel and get all of that attached onto this truck. And I have some more work to do on the front grille, and so let's get moving on Dodgezilla as well. So for some reason I lost my audio here, and I don't know why, but anyway, what I'm trying to show you is the new front shock tower mounts on root beer, and that's about it. It's just the only change, and unfortunately that's about all we're going to have time for in this video. So I want to thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please give us a like and a subscribe, and you all take care until next time.